Welcome back to another episode of Scum. Today, we are going to be going over the basics of character creation. It might not seem like it, but this step is very crucial and is extremely reliant on how you expect to be playing your character. Before we begin, let's go over the three main playstyles. Firstly, we have the Outcast. People who play this playstyle enjoy the game for its survival qualities, more so than the PvP. These players typically stay around the upper areas of the map, around D3 to C4. This is because out there in the boonies, there isn't much player interaction, leaving the Outcast to roam freely and hunt for animals using typical hunting gear, like a Kar 98 or a Hunter 55. In these areas of the map, there aren't a lot of military bunkers, so the Outcast gets the majority of his equipment the old-fashioned way, by making it. While playing the Outcast, you will acquire the majority of your fame from crafting, cooking, and hunting. Next, we have the Soldier. The Soldier tends to enjoy the firefights and the hotspots in the game, and value other players' equipment. These players are a very high-risk, high-reward player, whom either has a very high fame or very low fame. These players like to hang around the lower end of the map, usually around A4 to B1, as this is where the majority of bunkers and hotspots are. One main hotspot to look out for is the airfield. These players are usually carrying an automatic rifle, SVD, or shotgun, and they're not afraid to shoot any player or puppet. These players tend to carry a lot of meat on their character, usually human or puppet. Lastly, we have the Average Joe. The Average Joe is the player who plays the game for all aspects, a good mix between Soldier and Outcast. These players tend to be in the middle of the map, usually around C4 to B1, with some exceptions in the A region from time to time. With a very situational attitude, the Average Joe tends to carry any weapon he or she could find, and usually carries a sidearm as well. These players get the majority of their loot from base camps and towns, but will also hit the occasional military bunker. Now that we're done with which playstyle you prefer, let's go over the character creation menu. And for this section, I'll be handing the mic to me. Take it away, me. Thanks, me. Now that we're in the character creation menu, we can go over everything that you're going to need to know for your character. Starting from the top, we can change our name. Going downward, we can see that we have an age modifier, where we can go up from 20 to 50. This is very, very important, as this affects every little area of your character using these bonus skill points. Personally, I believe that one of the best areas that you could possibly get your character in is probably around the 40 mark. This is because our strength and constitution is maxed here. Going downward, we can see that our dexterity goes up and our strength stays the same. And going even lower, we can see that our dexterity will go up even by double. Now, if we go higher than 40, we'll start seeing that our strength is going down and our intelligence is going up, because the older you are, the more wise you become. Let's go to this area right in the center. Now that we're done with our age, we can now focus on our body type. There's three body types: muscular, thin, and fat. Each of these all have their benefits. Let's say if my character was very thick, we can go over and pull an example where if my character is in a fist fight with someone, I am less likely to be knocked out than he is, because as a bigger person, I can take more hits as someone who is very thin. These are all very important, and they all are very different for which playstyle you want to play. So for example, if we're going to be the Outcast, we're going to want somewhere in the thin fat area, so we can have a higher intelligence and a higher constitution. But if we were playing someone who is more of the Soldier, we're going to want more of a muscular thin or muscular fat. An Average Joe can pick whatever one he wants. The head type and the tattoos have no effect on your character whatsoever. Now that we're in the skill selection menu, we can see that our skill points have carried over. Since we are doing someone for the Soldier, we can see that our strength is going to be very high. Let's go and put this back at the center for someone who is more inclined for everything. Now, we are going to go down each one of these and only the ones that we can modify. We will have a video in the future explaining all of the rest of them in more detail. Starting off with strength, boxing would be your unarmed combat. So this would be good for if you're in a fist fight with someone. Rifles is good for your handling of the machine gun or whichever rifle you are using, which is the recoil, as well as the stability of your aim. Melee weapons would be the accuracy and how accurate you are with something using a blunt force weapon like a pitchfork or a baseball bat, as well as handgun would be very similar to rifles in the aspect that it's all about your stability and your recoil. Moving over to Constitution, we can see that we can change running, which would be our top speed, and our endurance, which is how long we can last. Dex, we can currently only change stealth, so it is always important to max this as much as you can. Moving on to last, intelligence skills are the most important out of all of these. This is because we have the 4 most crucial areas of this game, and which are the most impacting ones on each category. Starting off with awareness. Awareness is very, very intricate, as it affects many different areas of this game. A perfect example of awareness would be you in a third-person fight with someone else, where you are in a gunfight and you can see them in a third-person advantage. This is what happens when your character is hiding behind a block and your camera can see where the person is, but your character physically cannot, meaning that you have this peek advantage where they can't see you and you can see them. In Scum, this acts very differently, as you only see what your character sees, and awareness affects what you see. If you have a higher awareness, you can see the person debatably for longer than you would if you had a lower awareness. Debatably because we're going to go over camouflage. Sniping is for if you are hunting and your handling of your sniper rifles and holding of your breath. Camouflage counteracts awareness, so when I see someone in a third-person advantage and my awareness is high, the mathematical equation that what happens is it compares it to their camouflage. So if they have a higher camouflage than I do awareness, I won't see them as long as I would if they had a lower camouflage. Survival is a very important aspect as well, because survival affects everything that we can. So let's go over the different categories. Starting off with the outcast. For strength, we'd want a higher melee weapons and rifles, because we're going to be using a lot of melee weapons when fighting some puppets or maybe some animals, as well as rifles for shooting people or shooting animals with our sniper rifles. Constitution, we would want a very high endurance and a very high running. This is so we can run for long, because it doesn't matter our top speed, but more of how far we can get. This is because we're going up and down a lot of mountains. We should always be maxing stealth, as this is the only one that we can change. Next, we go to intelligence. For the outcast, we should have a higher sniping, a very high survival, and whatever one you have left over on awareness or camouflage, most preferably camouflage. The reason for a high survival is so that you don't need to level up anything when you first get started. This means that you can create fire with virtually any flammable object that you can get. Next, let's go down to soldier. For soldier, we'd want a very high rifle and a very high boxing or melee weapon. Handgun is not very important for us because we're going to be shooting people with our automatic rifles more so than we are with pistols. The basic on melee and boxing is just to get you a little bit of an upper hand advantage at the beginning of the game when hand-to-hand combat with zombies or people. Constitution, we would want a high running and a high endurance as usual, but you'd want these to be more half and half, because that way we can get a very high top speed as well as an okay endurance. Again, we stealth all the way. And intelligence, this is where it gets a little bit different. We don't need survival, but we do need awareness and camouflage. So you'd want to max your awareness as high as possible, because you are not going to be hiding from people. You are more trying to find out where they are. And lastly, for average Joe. For average Joe, your strength would want to be somewhere in the middle. You always want a basic or medium rifle with melee, with handguns, and a melee weapon maybe a basic as well. So somewhere around there would be fine, maybe even a higher rifle, because you're going to be using your rifles more so your handgun when you get your rifle. For Constitution, you'd want a very high endurance and a very medium running, or you could do a higher running with an endurance. This is preferably all up to you, because you're going to be the person traveling from B to C to A and all the way back to C again. Your dexterity will always stay maxed. And for intelligence, you would want somewhere around a medium for all of these because you're going to be doing a lot of everything. So a camouflage, an awareness, and a survival is very important. And you can choose which ones you would want to bring up higher. Preferably, I would like to bring awareness and survival up because then I can create things with crafting and I can cook meat that I couldn't have if I did not have it on medium. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you liked it, please press the subscribe button and hit that little bell icon to get notified when we upload a new video. If you have anything that you'd want to add, make sure you leave it in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Anyways, have a good one.